First lesson is that you need to communicate effectively what your policy is. And if in doubt, remain silent. Second lesson is that this crisis is largely about the relationship between debtors and creditors, and there needs to be a rebalancing between the two. Third lesson is that the original monetary union in Europe was only a halfway house, so there needs to be reforms and additions. And the last lesson is that you won't achieve anything unless you have economic growth. So I don't think it could have been prevented in the same way that the global financial crisis couldn't have been prevented. There were factors which were coming together to produce that crisis. What you might have been able to do is tackle it more effectively early. The Greek problem was initially ignored and minimized. The lesson of the United States in dealing with the banking system was that decisive early action, they didn't get it right first time, but they got it right soon afterwards in 2008-9, actually helped resolve it. It's harder in Europe because authority and power is shared, but still I think it could have been dealt with more effectively. I'm optimistic about the future of the euro if the right actions are taken to make sure that it doesn't collapse. This depends on the politicians. So it's not a question of whether I'm optimistic or pessimistic. Action is needed. Well, obviously in the pre-crisis world, when credit was easy, businesses could afford to take risks which now in retrospect look somewhat irresponsible. There's a new regulatory regime throughout the world. Things are much tighter. So businesses are going to have to respond to that. And I think probably businesses need to look beyond pure shareholder value as a guide to how to run their organizations. In the UK and in America, executive pay has become a lightning rod of criticism. And I think it's probably correct to say that executives need to make sure that their pay is very much aligned with their performance. They should not be rewarded for failure. That's a very tricky question to analyze it because this breakdown of trust is partly as a result of the volatility and uncertainty in financial markets. It's also the end of what I call the age of deference towards politicians. It's where public opinion seems to be more important. So my general advice, and I'm hesitant as a journalist to give advice to anybody, but I think people need to make sure that when they say something, they do it. The Spanish crisis is only one of several crises in Europe. We have a Greek crisis, we've got an Irish crisis, we have an Italian crisis, although we don't hear so much about that. I think that the Spanish government, not just this one, but the previous socialist government, somewhat belatedly has taken important measures to restore confidence in the markets, but much more needs to be done. This crisis is largely a result of what happened in the banking system and the property lending, which was irresponsible. But now there's an opportunity to reform. So let's see what's done by the politicians. I would just say that it's important to respect that both sides have important arguments, and I hope for Spain's sake and also for Europe's sake that these matters are settled in a responsible and amicable way. Well, obviously there's been a sea change since the global financial crisis, and the demands on business and business executives have increased exponentially. So people have to look very much beyond shareholder value and think about other stakeholders. They need to think about what business is contributing to the local economy, to society in general, while also generating profits. So there's a balance. I think the second lesson is that everybody needs to be much more adaptable. You need to be adaptable in terms of your languages, in terms of your willingness to move. And if you follow those principles, then you're going to be a successful executive. You never want to be too narrow.